Welcome to Sinister Heroes. I'm your host, Danny Iniquitous. Thank you for tuning in. If you're new to the channel, this is a Dungeons and Dragons channel where we talk about infusing darker concepts into all the character classes we make and all the stories we tell. If you enjoy that kind of a thing, please like, share, and subscribe. For all of you who have been here before, thank you so much for all of your support. We love to hear from you guys. Please keep commenting. It is the best feeling in the world to engage with you. So, in that wonderful dark spirit, let's jump into the College of Spirits Bard. The College of Spirits Bard. This is a very interesting subclass. This gets compared a lot to the College of Valor Bard, which we'll be discussing next, and you can kind of mix and match how you see fit if one is better off for you personally than the other. But this bard comes to us from Xanathars' Guide to Everything. This bard makes it more possible for you to engage in melee combat, and it has some cool features about that that's really built around being this kind of sword-wielding hero. I do enjoy classes that are hard to play and a little bit complicated and complex. If that's something that you'd like to really rack your brain on, then this is a very good class for that, because it does incorporate some things that are a little difficult to use to an optimal benefit, and that's something we'll discuss when we get further down into some of these abilities. So, when I think bards and I think making them dark and vile, a great representation of this is Kilgrave from the Jessica Jones show, or if you've ever read the comic, it's a great bard-like character that really uses illusion and enchantment to really, well, more so enchantment, to really force people to do whatever they want. And that power really corrupts them. And that's a beautiful way to start your bard out if you wanted to walk this dark path. It's exciting to manipulate characters in game when it works. It's great when it doesn't. It is horrible. So be prepared for a lot of ups and downs, but it can be fun if you're a risk taker. This Bard College of Swords does require you to get into melee, so be prepared to get a little dicey, but understand you can always fall back, so you don't have to be stuck into one specific role. A big part about being a bard is that you have a full caster spell progression. So you have the spell slots, you have a great plethora of spells. When you are a full caster, no matter what you do, understanding your spells and their applications is what's going to make your character extremely usable in all of the facets that their classes make them available to be. So keep that in mind. When you select this subclass at 3rd level, you gain access to a couple of different abilities. First and foremost, you're going to gain bonus proficiency. This really helps round out and give you a good identity as to what this subclass really is. You gain access to medium armor and the scimitar. And whenever you're holding a melee, simple, or martial weapon, you can use that as a spellcasting focus. Understand that the reason why you only gain access to the scimitar is because as a bard you already have access to the rapier and the short sword, which gives you all the finesse weapons you'll need. This is really the College of Swords bard, and it's really heavily influenced that you do pick up swords in order to satisfy your melee weaponry. It's a great thing. It's a good understanding for when you're building your character that this is something that you're going to have to do. You also gain access to a fighting style. You can choose between dueling or 2-weapon fighting. Dual weapon fighting has a terrible reputation to it. I get it. A lot of people don't like it for a bunch of reasons. I understand. I love it, and every chance I get to use it, I do. The only situation in which I wouldn't really use it is the fighter, because you gain so many attacks. But when you have less attacks, it's a lot easier to gain the benefit, especially if you don't have that bonus action. If you're not using your bonus action regularly, doing an extra hit is definitely worth it. Anything you can do to chip away at that HP is very valuable for you. At 3rd level, you also gain access to Blade Flourish. This is the defining ability of the College of Swords Bard. You learn to conduct yourself in impressive displays of martial prowess and speed. Whenever you take the attack action on your turn, your walking speed increases by 10 feet until the end of the turn. And if a weapon attack that you make as part of this action hits a creature, You can use one of the following blade flourish options of your choice. You can only use one blade flourish option per turn. Understand, each one of these will take your bardic inspiration, which is why people tend to be very, oh no, I don't want to use my bardic inspiration, but rest assured, it is your resource. You use it how you see fit is the best thing I can say to you. Don't ever make yourself forcibly holding the bag for everyone else. It's great if you want to be supportive. It's great if you want to help people with bardic inspiration. That's awesome, but feel free to use it on your own abilities as well. It's what's really going to make you feel great. Now, first and foremost, you get defensive flourish. You can expend one use of your bardic inspiration to cause the weapon to deal extra damage to the target you hit. The damage equals the number rolled on your bardic inspiration die. Also, you add the number rolled to your AC until the start of your next turn. As you build your bardic inspiration, it does increase its die roll until you get towards the end of the game, where I believe it's a D12. This will add on, and it will stay on, much in the way that shield works. This is a rather dastardly move. If you happen to be very quick-witted, this is definitely something for you. If you learned how to roleplay in combat, this is a wonderful thing to do. If you've used Vicious Mockery before, you can just say things like that to intimidate and agitate your enemies, really force them to draw like their rage towards you, really be that silver tongue kind of a character, and really say things and enjoy this moment and mock them and dare them to have the audacity to strike at you and laugh at them when they miss. You can bump up your AC pretty high with this. It's probably the most realistically used flourish, and it works against all attacks against you that have obviously attack rolls. So feel free to really encourage the use of that and go nuts whenever you have the opportunity, especially if you end up in a scenario where you're surrounded. The second blade flourish you gain access to is Slashing Flourish. You can expend one use of your bardic inspiration die to cause the weapon to deal extra damage to the target you hit, and to any creature of your choice within 5 feet of you. The damage equals the number rolled on your bardic inspiration die. This is a great way to encourage you to attack enemies that are with other allies. It is an exciting thing for you because you have a reason to do almost cleaving damage, which is a rarity and something you don't get to do often. I like the idea of slashing very wide and being kind of like a medium armor kind of a character, so you kind of have to be like dancing in between and still being able to take on multiple enemies at the same time. I like that theory. I like that idea because it makes me feel like, yeah, I can be evil as a bard really easily, just lean into illusions and enchantments and really manipulate people and just be vile and disgusting about abusing them and degrading them and bringing them down and putting debuffs on them like Bane and things like that that make it very, very difficult for them, and then just going in and just going nuts with swords, because who says you can't be evil and attractive? And that's a really great concept, and I really see that come out in Slashing Flourish. I love the idea of putting like a debuff on an enemy, running up and just slashing everything in sight and all around you. It's exciting to me, and I like that risk, and I think it really helps to develop the character, because when you're willing to go that far in, when you're willing to stack the deck in your favor and really abuse the scenarios you can, like only a bard can, and then go in and just start slashing things to pieces, I love that. It gives this false sense of like bringing your enemy down just so you can stomp on them as a joke, because you're just so far above them. You have like advantage, they have disadvantage, they can't see you, you can see them, like they're wrapped in a mirage, they can't see what's going on, and you're just like jumping as a hidden attacker. Like, that's cool. This really gives me that understanding of being able to do that. And I really like this personally above Defensive Flourish because it's great to survive. It is. I can't argue with that. But it's exciting when you start to use other components of your character as well as the subclass and not just focus on the subclass. The final Blade Flourish you gain access to is Mobile Flourish. You can expend one use of your Bardic Inspiration die to cause the weapon to deal extra damage to the target you hit. The damage equals the number you roll on your Bardic Inspiration die, and you can also push the target up to 5 feet away from you, plus a number of feet equal to the number you roll on that die. You can then immediately use your reaction to move up to your walking speed to an unoccupied space within 5 feet of the target. This is what's important about this particular Blade Flourish. If you have party members that do things with area ground control, like spike growth, entanglement, things like that, things that putting an enemy back into will be detrimental, this is where you would use that ability. Predominantly, you want to be able to push things into that as often as possible, because it'll increase the longevity of whatever ability that is, and you want that. It's very supportive for you. It works cool. It's almost like making a dual tech with your party members. It's very fun to be able to do that. And this is something where you need to know who your party is. On the other hand, it is a great way to set things up. Say an enemy is far from your tankier character, or maybe they have the ability to hold them in place. And this enemy is going towards other character members, is chasing after you, whatever it may be. Use Mobile Flourish. If you roll at least a 5 on your Bardic Inspiration, that's 10 feet this thing got pushed. Which is great. And then you can use your movement to move away from it. I'd be really hesitant to use your reaction to move up to your walking speed towards it. But there are scenarios where that can be important as well, as like pushing it away from one of your party members, trying to save someone else's life. That is a great way to use Mobile Flourish. I personally would rather use it to throw an enemy back into an AoE or a channeling spell that would do damage or restrain or do some sort of negative thing to that character. I think that's fun. At 6th level, you gain access to extra attacks. So you can now attack twice instead of once whenever you take the attack action. If you are dual wielding, you can now use your bonus action to make 3 attacks. I mentioned that earlier. I just can't pass up the opportunity to use 2 weapons. I just love it whenever I get the opportunity to do so. Keep in mind, you can use specialized things to make this more viable. You do get access to magical secrets later on, so you can pick up something like Hex or Hunter's Mark. Things like that that'll really benefit you in adding damage onto your dice. It's simple, it's really easy to do, and you can lay it on earlier. Extra attack, normally you get a 5th level. Because you are a full caster, you gain access to 3rd level spells at 5th level. So you do have a big advantage with what you can do spell wise. So don't feel so bad that this took you a little bit longer to get there. Extra attack is great. It's just a damage boost to help you keep pace with other classes, other melee classes, and make sure when you're out of spell slots that you still have a viable thing to do in combat scenarios. At 14th level, you gain access to Master's Flourish. This is the final College of Swords ability. This lets you use a D6 instead of your Bardic Inspiration. Understand you will probably want to use your Bardic Inspiration a lot more, because at this point it is a D10 and you're 1 level away from a D12. It gives you the ability to use a Blade Flourish every turn and not worry about resources. It's effective, it's great. Considering what you can do with Blade Flourishes, that's a great bonus to have. Yeah, a D6 isn't always going to be a huge number. A lot of the times, on average, it's set to say it's 4 or 5 that you'll roll most of the time. It makes a difference. It does. If you've ever played a character and you just beat an attack by 1 AC, you know what I'm talking about. It can make a difference. Pushing them a couple of feet makes a difference. Being able to slash an additional enemy for extra damage every turn, no matter what, great. Absolutely beneficial. It's a powerful ability because it removes a resource cost while still giving you a resource that can up that ability. Yeah, you can throw a D12 to add onto your armor. Maybe you'll roll 12 and get 12 additional AC, and that additional damage helps out. It is very, very great to have. It is a wonderful thing to really let you feel like you've really accomplished something with your ability as a stylistic kind of a fighter, that you can do these wonderful things constantly. Our final thoughts. The College of Swords Bard is a very complex character to play. On paper, these abilities seem very interesting and seem a lot usable, but in combat, in game, in scenarios, it requires more of an actual genuine concept of what you do as a bard. Your magic is really the forefront of your abilities. You gain a plethora of buffs and debuffs that really are inherent to the bard, which is awesome. You can use that, and you can use magical secrets to really pick and choose spells from other spell lists and really change the way your bard works. Those kinds of concepts as a caster are very powerful, and it's something you really need to mitigate and understand how much you're going to dive into that, because you can jump in and just go nuts in melee if that's what you wanted. It's crazy, it's dangerous, and it's absolutely exciting, but there is a choice and an understanding as to who your bard is. Are you dastardly and vile that you like to manipulate the minds? Are you hideous and grotesque that you use illusion to make people love you and care for you, and that you take out on enemies with your blades whenever you are caught for being what you are, or being taunted for being this creature? Or are you just a spellcaster who happens to just use swords when they run out of magic? You can use a lot of things, and you gain this great understanding of who your character is if you start with the concept first. I like the idea of a swords bard being a tiefling, being dastardly and using charm in order to get through all these scenarios where the whole world absolutely disgusts, does not trust, and has absolute hate for, because they think vile things will happen just by being in your company. But you use charm to work your way in and out of crowds and draw the attention of important people and get what you need by abusing their minds and forcing them to see things your way. I love that idea. That concept is just inherent to me. I almost build it regularly whenever I get access to charm and abilities like that, because I like that theory of like deceiving your way or making people love you against their will. That is so dark and just vile and like black-hearted that it just screams incredible ambition, because you got to be really willing to risk it all to be able to do things like that. And that's what a bard is. Bard is a character that gets out there, that puts themselves and just lays it out on the field just to make something great happen. Your music isn't with a lute, it isn't with a song, it's with the blade scraping through flesh, and that's what your character is. Embrace that, but don't ever negate the power of the bard with its spells and its abilities. You cannot forget who you are because of where your journey led you. That being said, I think there's a lot of fun to be played with this class. I think playing a bard is a lot of work, which is great because I happen to love character classes that are a lot of work. So with that being said, we're going to bring this video to a close. If you've made it this far, thank you so much. It's really important to us, and it feels great to know that you guys made it all the way. And thank you so much. If you like what we saw, like what you thought, or even had any great ideas, please comment, please like, please share, subscribe. We love to hear from you guys, and most importantly, thank you for giving a spooky kid a chance.